Anyway, back to the topic. I tried to do this walk through the wilderness about 3 times, and I managed to cross about 700 all the way to 1,000 kilometers each time. But what I learned through this journey, because I was passing from big cities and metropolises through towns, villages, highways, and of course, a lot of wilderness where there's no people. That actually answered my second question. It answered my second question, which is, can you go to any place where there is no people where you would not be gang stalked? So I got my answer. So that was good to see. First question, does gang stalking follow you around? Yes, it does, even when you leave and go to another country. Answer the first question. Second question answered as well. Is there a place where you can go where you would not be gang stalked because there, by virtue of the fact that there is literally no one? Yes, there is. So, because of this, it got me thinking, and I said, I suggested something, you know, well, just thinking in my head, and I was saying, you know, maybe a solution for targeted individuals would be to get together, form a group, maybe of just 10 up to 20 people. It could be maximum 30 people. Get together and form an off grid community, an off grid TI community. Why not? I think this would solve most of the targeted individuals' problems because you get together and you go and you form an off-grid community somewhere in the wilderness where there is no one. Like I'm talking about locations that are so off-grid, like you're very unlikely to meet any people. Of course, there is all sorts of forests in Europe and different places in the world where there are trails and people come from different places to walk through those trails and do hiking and sightseeing. But there are, of course, also places which have no people that are so far, so remote. There is no one. No one knows that you're there, and you are very far away from the nearest villages. Maybe the nearest village could be like 10 kilometers away or something like that. These, please, uh, these places do exist. So I thought about it and I said, guys, we are people who are being persecuted by the very fucking government under which we live. The government is persecuting us. Society is persecuting us. We are dying. Targeted individuals are actually dying. People are committing suicide left and right. People dying. All sorts of stuff is happening. So we have every reason to want to gather together and just leave and go and live in some off-grid community. And that's why I'm proposing this idea to people and saying, why not try and do it? Get together, get a bunch of people. It could be 5 people, it could be 10 people, it could be 20 people, and create an off-grid, TI community. Now, it's going to come to logistics. Logistics are very simple. I think you would need a source of food. I think raising cattle would be a very good idea. If some of us can get together and have gather together some resources and especially capital, and we can buy some cattle, maybe 10 sheep, 20 sheep or something like that. And then we can work on that, and that would be a source of regenerating source of food. Once in a while you would slaughter one sheep to feed the entire, let's say, group or tribe or community. And of course, these sheep would reproduce and produce offspring, and their numbers would grow. And by maintaining that number, you can actually be able to feed the entire tribe and still have more sheep for the next coming months and so on and so forth. Maybe we can choose locations such as places which are close to rivers and lakes. That way, at least you would have a source of water. There are many places like that in America, in Europe. There's many places like that. As far as where we would live, probably people could just live in tents. That would be the simplest way to do it, because I'm guessing it would be a good idea if you're doing this kind of thing to be always ready to move from one location to another, sort of like a nomadic tribalistic thing that you would just, get up and leave and get your tent and leave if you have to, because I'm guessing we might potentially have problems with the police, or I don't know, something else that might require moving from place to place. Actually, grazing cattle itself would require you to move from place to place, because eventually the cattle is not going to have enough grass to feed on. So I guess the simplistic way of doing it would be to have a bunch of tents, everybody with his own tent, sleeping bags. Some people might be able to afford RVs. RVs are very useful. You can use them for transportation. You can also live in them. You can cook in them. They can also provide electricity and heating. So that can also be very handsy. So, okay, I talked about where we would live. I talked about the cattle for food. Obviously, we'd have things like knives, because we would need to slaughter the sheep and the cattle and prepare the meat. We would also need, probably, I think it would be a good idea to get our hands on a couple of weapons, maybe some, rifles or shotguns, or maybe even pistols or something, crossbows, bows, anything. Just any weapons that can be used for protection. Of course, with numbers comes power. If you have 10, 20, 30 people grouping together to live as a community, then we can look out for each other. We can protect each other in case something happens. And if some gang stalkers decide to, follow us in this remote place in the woods, to cause trouble or something like that, they would actually be risking a lot, because that's a very dangerous thing for them. They could get shot and killed and buried in the middle of nowhere, and nobody would know about it. Of course, guys, I am not proposing that we use violence. I'm not saying anybody use violence, but I'm just saying, imagine if, So you have weapons, that way you can protect yourself. You can have knives that can be used. You can even carry with yourself some kind of water distillation system in case water is not available. But like I said, there are many locations which do have things like rivers. Even a lake would be enough, because you can just take that water from the lake and heat it up and boil it, and then it would be what is called potable water. It would be drinkable. You can drink it. So yeah, that covers, I think, the basics. Tents, sleeping bags, weapons, cattle for food, water, RVs, and there you go. The logistics are very simple. Some people might even be interested in doing some farming. Potato is a great plant to plant around all year round. You can plant potato literally anywhere in the world. So depending on the location, actually it doesn't matter, because you can literally plant potato anywhere in the world. You can plant potato from Ireland. I have heard about Saudi Arabia actually planting potatoes, which everybody knows Saudi Arabia is not exactly known as the most fertile land. So you can plant potatoes literally anywhere you want, and maybe even in a forest. You can just prepare some ground for it, and then just put some potatoes, some spuds in the ground, and grow some potatoes. You can grow onions, garlic. There's a lot of things that you can grow pretty easily, even in climates that are not the best for agriculture. So even in climates that do not have a lot of sunlight, because obviously things like tomato, for example, would require a lot of sunlight, and so on and so forth. Avocado or sweet peppers would require a good amount of sunlight and water as well. So I think that this just sums up this idea that I'm proposing. Now, I'm not saying I'm about to do this or something. I'm just saying I'm throwing it out there to people. If you are interested, it'd be a good idea to start talking about it and see, maybe we can gather some people who are serious enough to do this thing. Guys, logistics are very simple. It doesn't take a lot. The logistics are very simple to to get the people together, but get a bunch of tents and cattle and some weapons and tinder and like lights to light fires and stuff. That is not a particularly difficult thing to do. I guess it just really boils down to the motivation of the people. If the people want to actually commit to it. And yeah, so I'm just gonna wrap this video up and say, guys, if you're interested, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think, if it's a good idea or not, and I'll talk to you later.